Thanks for tuning in to Nosing Around with Megan and Tony. I'm your host, Megan Bishop, and my co-host, Tony Carrico.
It's good to be here. This is our first show together, Megan.
Right.
This is awesome. Glad to have you on board with the Chamber staff.
Thank you.
What's our show going to be about today, Megan?
We are highlighting the North Carolina Oyster Festival. This year is the 34th annual, and we want to highlight all the great things that we have at this festival. It'll be at Ocean Isle Beach, October 18th and 19th.
And we've got a lot of the same stuff coming back, like our stew competition and our shucking competition, but we've added several new things this year to the festival as far as competitions go and other events.
We do. This year we have our North Carolina Surf-Off competition, which will be October 4th and 5th from 8 to 5, and that'll be at Ocean Isle. We have our road race, which will be Sunday, October 19th. We have a 5K, 10K, and a fun run.
And that particular race is going to be on festival weekend this year.
Yes, we're bringing it back to that weekend. We've got the shagging contest, which is new. So we've got that Sunday, October 19th from 3 to 5. And then we have our mud run, which is Saturday, October 11th.
That's right. The Mud Run is a new event that we've added this year also, and it's going to be held out in Ash on the weekend before. It is a Spartan type 5K run through 30-some obstacles. It's very fun. We'll be having an after party with a band there. And speaking of bands, let's talk a little bit about who's coming to the Oyster Festival this year.
Got some great bands coming to the festival. We've got Fat Jack Band, The Entertainers, 40 East Band, 4 Miles South, Jim Quick and the Coastline Band, and Gary Louder and Smokin' Hot. So it'll be a great entertainment. We've got 2 stages. We're bringing in that second stage this year, so it should be a great weekend.
Yep. We'll have the music at one stage, and then we'll be doing a lot of our competitions at the other stage. So this year, instead of the shucking and the oyster stew competition and now the oyster eating competition that we're starting this year, will be on an elevated stage. So it'll make it more audience friendly for them to be able to watch all of the happenings of the different contestants.
Right,
That's
and
great.
the admission for both days is $5 for adults, and children under 8 get in free. And you can find any of that information on our website at the NorthCarolinaOysterFestival.com or our BrunswickCountyChamber.org website, or you are welcome to call the Chamber and ask any questions.
And that number at the Chamber is 910-754-6644. And also, we will be doing the same thing that we've been doing in past years. We will have shuttle services running from the mainland over to the island so that folks can park and get into the festival in a timely manner.
And we would like to give a special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Novant Health.
That's right. Novant Health has come on board with us, and we're tickled to have them, and we look forward to a great festival this year. So today we're going to talk to 4 different folks that are involved in the Oyster Festival. First off, the Coastal Shag Club, Wayne and Jennifer Bell are coming in. They're going to show us some shag moves and talk a little bit about shagging. Then we're going to have Keith White here. He's our artist that does our commemorative prints every year for the last 6 years at least. Then we will have Rube McMullen. Rube has been a previous contestant in the shucking competition. He's actually going to shuck some oysters for you guys today on the show. And last but not least, we'll have Mike Abishakra with Brent Elizabeth Jewelry. Mike did our first pieces of jewelry, commemorative pieces last year. He's done some great new things for this year, and he's going to be showing those to our audience today also.
It's going to be a great show, and we're going to take a quick break and have our first guest on. Thanks.
Megan, we're back. Who's first on the agenda today for her show?
We are talking with Wayne and Jennifer Bell from Coastal Shag. So today we are talking about our new shag contest that we are bringing back to the North Carolina Oyster Festival, which will be held on Sunday, October 19th. We will have several local individuals that have grown up around the Carolinas and enjoy the sound of beach music.
Cool.
Wayne and Jennifer will be here today to show us the basic step of the shag. The shag dance is a 6-count step, and you normally do it with partners. The term Carolina shag was thought to be originated from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and the Wilmington area. And this event is sponsored by Coastal Shag and Shallotte.
Yes, Megan, they're located out in the Moose Lodge. They have their classes and dancing out there, and I think it's every 3rd Tuesday of the month, but we'll get more information on that from Jennifer and Wayne when we bring them in. This is great to be bringing this back. It's going to be a very popular event. We used to do this on at Oyster Festival several years ago, and it got dropped. We decided to bring it back by popular demand. We've had a lot of people ask about shagging at the Oyster Festival over the last few years, so we decided to bring it back, and so far it's looking like it's going to be great. I just was down at Fat Harold's last week checking out the shaggers down there, and my wife and I are thinking about getting us some lessons from Coastal Shag. So stay right with us. We're going to bring Wayne and Jennifer Bell out. They're going to show us a few dance steps and tell us a little bit more about the Coastal Shag Club here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
We are back, and we would like to welcome Wayne and Jennifer Bell with Coastal Shag. Thank you so much for being on our show today. We are glad you are here, and you are going to show us the basic shag step.
It's nice to have you guys with us today. A couple quick questions. Coastal Shag's located here in Charlotte. Where is it that you do your dances at, and what time? Sorry.
At the Moose Lodge
Okay.
on Holden Beach Road, and we meet every third Saturday night at 6:30.
Okay. And this is a membership-based organization, correct?
It is.
So what is a basic membership cost for a person or a couple to come out and be a member to get involved?
The basic membership is $30 a year per person. There's more information on our shag website, which is the coastalshagclub.org.
Okay. Well, we'll be sure and post that up for the folks to look at on the television so they can find you guys. And that Moose Lodge is just right out of town, correct?
Correct.
Just as soon as you leave out behind the Home Depot and all, it's on the left down there
Correct.
on Home Beach Road. Good. Well, listen, this is awesome. We're looking forward to you showing us some steps. First, I think we're going to do just the basic steps with no music, and then we're going to turn some music on and let you guys show a more advanced dance to the music, if
Okay.
you will, okay? Megan and I are going to step over to the side and let you have the floor.
The basic step is a 6-step, and the female starts on the right foot and the male starts on the left. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6.
Megan's putting on some music now. We're going to let you guys do a more advanced dance step for the folks.
Back to those sunny days. Take me back when everything was going my way. Life goes on, but it's not the same to me. 'Cause now she's gone and it's not like it used to be. Back when she was still my baby, my baby. Back when she was still my girl, my girl. Back when she was still my baby, my baby. She was everything, she was my whole world. Take me back, back when the world was mine. Take me back, back when her love was so fine. But now I'm sad, 'cause my baby's gone away. It hurts so bad, I wanna go back to those days. Back when she was still my baby, my baby. Back when she was still my girl, my girl. Back when she was still my baby, my baby. She was my everything, she was my whole world. Back when she was still my baby, my baby. Back when she was still my girl.
Hey, that was great.
Very good.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thanks
Thank
for
you for
being
having
here.
us.
We're glad to have you here, and we're looking forward to the shagging at the Oyster Festival. Look forward to having these folks down here. Be sure and go check them out at coastalshagclub.org if you have any questions, or you can also call us at the chamber at 910-754-6644 for more information.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
like to welcome Keith White, our local artist here in Ocean Isle Beach. He does some of our commemorative pieces for the 34th Annual North Carolina Oyster Festival. Thank you for being a part of our show today.
Oh, thank you for
Welcome,
having me.
Keith.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you here. Let's talk a little bit about the print for this year. You've been doing the prints for the Oyster Festival now how many years?
This will be the 6th year.
Sixth year.
Yeah.
And you've kind of kept a theme going as we've gone down the line with these different prints. So if somebody's collecting them, they
Right.
can kind of follow a story almost with the prints.
Right. Well, the last couple of years, that's certainly been the case. Last year, I had it's kind of like the two same characters in the main focus of the piece were in that piece. They were actually gathering the oysters on the oyster bed. And this year, I have them kind of in the boat. They've got their harvest and they're heading towards the oyster house or, the seafood place. And I just wanted to kind of depict this year more of the kind of vessels and different things you might see in the intercoastal
Right.
that that travel, like with shrimp boats and sailboats, fishing boats, and and now over on the side I have paddle boarders, since that seems to be a pretty big fad right now, and people do get out there and
See
explore.
them every time I'm out.
Yeah, and stuff. And this year I added some dolphins, which you never really think of dolphins being in an intercoastal. I just happened to see some going over the bridge earlier this summer, and just kind of sparked the idea to add dolphins this year.
We've actually been out on our boat and saw dolphins too, and I've heard a lot of people this year, especially more than last year, have saw them out there. And then we've got the pelicans, which are always pretty cool to see flying along the
yeah.
waterway and the ocean front when we're out there. Now this picture too, it looks like we're right under the Causeway Bridge here in
Right.
Ocean Isle Beach, so it's
Right. I
pretty
wanted
familiar
to-
territory.
Yeah, I wanted to keep the Ocean Isle scene, the bridge, as a recognizable landmark. I
Right.
wanted to keep that in there and just kind of have them going through that.
When you're drawing these pictures of these folks, is there somebody in your mind that you're using kind of as a mental model?
Not
really?
particularly,
Okay.
no.
Just checking. It kind of looked like the back of my head if you'll
Oh, okay. It might be subconscious.
Just kidding.
And
It-
these prints will be available at your booth at the festival, correct?
Right.
Okay.
That is
For
correct.
purchase.
And they're limited edition.
Right.
And how many?
There'll be 200.
200 this year of this print. So be sure you get your print because
Right,
they won't
right.
last.
And you also do our T-shirts for the festival. Tell us a little bit
Right.
about the theme of that. Picture that
The
you do
theme
on
of the T-shirt is more of a comical type thing. We have a character that we use, Ozzy the oyster, and he's going to be the focal of it, and he's going to have his bag of people and stuff. But that's basic theme of the T-shirt.
Okay. And those will be
stuff. It's kinda
available as
fun.
well for purchase.
And that Ozzy, speaking of Ozzy, Keith has also done a lot of our logos for Oyster Festival, Surf Off,
Road Race.
Road Race, and now our Muddy Oyster
Yeah.
Run. So we've got Ozzy is in all of those different logos for branding purposes. And Keith has been gracious enough to draw that and help us with those logos along the
Yeah.
way.
Yep.
Thank you for being a part of our show today.
Oh, no problem.
We look forward to seeing you at the festival.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
We are back, and we would like to welcome Rube McMullen here today. He is a fourth-year contestant with our oyster shucking contest for the North Carolina Oyster Festival. Thank you for being here today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you're going to do today for us.
I am going to practice and get ready for the oyster shucking contest, because this will be the first oysters I've actually had an opportunity to open this year. Our oyster season here in North Carolina is more of a winter sort of event where if a month has an R in it, that's when the season is open. So it's been a while since we've had an oyster. These are not North Carolina oysters, but they are excellent oysters from the Gulf, and so I'll look forward to opening them up and see if I can sneak and eat one. If you guys are watching.
Right.
Rube, let me ask you this. You know, you've been in the competition several years. It's my understanding you've won a couple of years.
I either won 1 or 2 years. I can't remember. There was another year I came in second.
Tell us a little bit about that story you were sharing with us earlier.
Well, the year I came in second, Wilson Sherrill, I think, was was the judge, and so I went to Wilson, who's a wonderful fellow and a good friend, and I said, Wilson, I'm going to do something nobody's ever done before. He said, what's that? He said, I'm going to file a protest. And he said, what? He said, we never had anybody file a protest. I said, well, 2 of my oysters ended up having mud in them. In other words, they didn't have an oyster, they were just mud. And so I got penalized for that, so I'm officially filing a protest here. And he said, oh, God, what are we going to do? And I said, I'm just kidding. No, and I was kidding, but the lady that was the artist for the festival that year, she took one of her beautiful posters and signed it, and then wrote on there, the second best oyster shucker I ever met.
Very cool.
So that's a treasure of mine.
Yeah, I'm sure it
It
is.
is.
I'm sure it
I have
is.
that framed in my house, and I'm happy with that.
Well, a couple other questions I'm going to ask you. Now, this is a competition that we have both amateurs and pros, and it's my understanding you compete in the amateur division.
Strictly in the amateur division, right?
And then the pro division, they actually go on to a national competition if they win here, because we are the official North Carolina oyster shucking competition.
Right.
And then if they win at the national level, which I think is in Maryland, they can go on to Ireland to an international level.
That's right.
Of shucking competition. So this is pretty serious business for coastal areas, the shucking, and it's serious business for you too, I know.
Well, it's serious business for me to eat the oysters. So, my greatest area of expertise would be on the eating side of the equation. Only from probably eating so many oysters have I become somewhat of a expert at opening them. But, the folks that do this for a living that compete on the professional level, you don't mess with
They're
them.
amazing.
They'll make you look like a fool. And so no, they're great and professional, and I love to watch them because
do too.
they can flat get it done. And yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the competition. They're checking you for 3 different things we were talking about.
It's all about, well, first of all, it's about speed, and it's about presentation, which includes not just how the oyster looks, but whether it's clean. When you open an oyster, these are perfectly clean, but the oyster may have a little bit of mud on it. So when you open the oyster, if you get a little mud in the shell and that becomes part of the presentation, that's a negative. You'll be penalized for that. If you open the oyster and you split the oyster so that half of it's on one side of the shell, half of it's on the other, you get penalized for that. If you cut your finger and you bleed on the oyster, that's a big penalty.
Yeah, I'd say.
And I've definitely seen that happen, and it will happen, and it can happen to anybody. It may happen to me right now.
Right.
But anyway, that's the sort of the presentation side, and then of course it's about speed.
Right.
Who can open the? I think they provide a dozen oysters, and who can open those the fastest with good presentation would be the winner.
That's right. Well, we've got you half a dozen here today. We picked up at Island Seafood in Ocean Isle Beach there on the causeway. They were
Okay.
gracious enough to give us a half a dozen to bring up here and let you shuck for us today and give a little presentation. And you can tell us as you go how this would happen if you were on stage. And speaking of which, this year we're actually going to have the oyster shucking up on a stage instead of under a tent, so it'd be more audience friendly.
Good,
So
okay.
it's going to be a lot different, and we're also going to do our oyster eating competition and stew competition up on the stage.
Excellent. Well,
So as you start to shuck these, just tell us what you're doing, what you're looking for.
Sure. So if this were the shucking tournament, one thing they allow you to do is to substitute oysters. So what you first do is you look at your oysters, make sure that that you're happy with what you see with your oysters. For example, you want to see that the valves are set so that they're going to be easier to open. And here's an example of an oyster with a good valve right here, so you can get your knife underneath there. Versus say this one right here is one that I would put on the substitute list, because you can see here you don't have much of a valve to work with.
Right.
And what will happen quite often with an oyster like this is that little piece of shell will break when you go to open it, and then you got a problem, because then you really got to do surgery on it to get in there and get the oyster open. And if this is one of your oysters and you're spending a lot of time fighting one oyster, then clock's
Time's
ticking,
tick, yeah.
clock's get away from me. So this is one that I would say I would substitute if we were
Ask for
in fact
another one.
having the event. In terms of opening these oysters, the way that I would open an oyster, and I don't think anybody's invented the exact way you're supposed to do
Right.
it. Everybody probably has their own technique, but for me, it's just a matter of sticking the valve in there, and I just kind of stick around and pop it like that. And then if I'm in a hurry, I'm going to pop the shell real fast like
Right.
that. If I'm in the tournament, in fact, if I'm really cooking in the tournament, when I pop that shell, it may go flying off in the audience because I'm flying as fast as I can. And so then the next thing you want to do is to come in here and you cut the bottom piece off so that the oyster is floating free. And then you would set it down, and that would be your first oyster. And so when the judges come around, what they're looking for is that oyster to look perfect like this one right here looks. So you can see it looks just perfect. And what you wouldn't want to see is like
Shell crumbs.
shell crumbs in it, or mud, or blood, or I had cut the oyster improperly and half of it ended up over here.
Right.
And those would all be penalty points. So you want the oyster to be open perfectly, and just like this one is here. And then you would go to the next one, and the game continues on. And see, now that one I screwed up. See that one, this one I might be penalized on because when I went to open it and I didn't cut the valve
Right.
perfectly, and so I flipped it open and the oyster actually turned itself upside
Right.
down. And so that would not be perfect. And then you see a little piece of shell you got to clear out. It doesn't hurt the eating a bit. I mean,
Right.
but just in terms of
So this thing right here, let me ask you a quick question. This is the valve? Or this is
that's
the
muscle.
valve?
That's the muscle. That's the valve.
Okay.
All right. This is what holds the oyster on.
Right.
And the valve, of course, is
Is
what
in
you
the back.
use to get into
Okay.
them. Right. But now, actually, if an oyster is in its natural living world, it's going to be sitting on a like a rock like
Yeah.
this. Okay.
In an oyster bed.
The oyster bed, and the shell will actually open. When the tide comes in, the shell opens, and that's how the nutrients get in. And when the tide goes out, because the oyster is going to be out of the water at low tide, then the shell will close completely.
That's wild.
That's what that protects it. And then the moisture stays inside, and that's how the oyster continues to live.
Very interesting.
Yep. So, see, that one is done perfectly.
So there's 3 out of 6. I'm not timing you today, Lou. So
Okay.
what is a good time?
I was trying to remember. I'm thinking that I'm gonna say it's less than 5 minutes, but
Okay.
I honestly can't remember exactly.
And that's on a dozen.
Right. It's right around a dozen.
Now, the valve broke a little bit on that one. That doesn't hurt as long as it didn't get in the shell or you got
Exactly.
it cleaned out.
Exactly right. So here's the one that I've mentioned.
hard one.
Would be one that I would have rejected. So let's just see if that shell breaks. I can see there.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was talking about. See how that breaks? And so now you can actually end up in a problem where you got an oyster, you got to get it open, but now what are you gonna do? So you stick with this one. Came up
This is
easy.
supposed to be where I'd be bloody.
Well, and that's what happens a lot of times. When you really start fighting the oyster, that knife slips,
Yeah.
and you get your hand. And of course, now, most folks will wear a glove, and that's another whole subject, I guess. It's all different kinds of gloves that people like to use. I don't use anything sophisticated, but I've seen guys come in there with like a inner tube sort of
Oh, wow.
glove.
Wow.
I'll just use like a yard glove or something like
Okay.
that, just to slow it down a little bit. I mean,
Fend off the blood leaching.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Obviously, you don't anticipate, or you don't want to cut yourself, but it can happen. So here is this is what you might do with your presentation. Again, you're always trying to impress the judges.
Right.
So what I like to do with mine is I'll try to make a smile with a nose and 2 eyes and
Oh,
a
cool.
couple of ears. Maybe you get an extra point for that.
Yeah.
Whatever. But
Well, thank you so much for showing us how to shuck an oyster. We'd like to also mention that the Charlotte River Swamp Park will be sponsoring the oyster shucking contest, and the Ocean Isle Wing and Fish Company will also be sponsoring the oyster stew contest. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, and
you.
thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. And do we get to eat now? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Thank you. We are back with Michael Abishakra here today with us with Brand Elizabeth Jewelers. Thank you so much for being a part of our show today.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks. Michael does our jewelry for the Oyster Festival, and we are excited about the new jewelry for this year. Before we look at the jewelry, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and how long you've been in the jeweler business.
Well, I grew up in the jewelry business. My father's a jeweler. However, he knew if we were going to stay in the business, the way the world is changing, that we needed to be professional. So I went to school at the Gemological Institute of America in San Diego, California, and studied there, got my graduate gemologist and my graduate jeweler. I advocate for the industry, transparency, to try to make sure that people are as informed as possible. There's always things that folks need to watch out for that are not always told up front. So I try to advocate for the industry and educate people as much as possible.
And Mike, with your business and your education, and all, you're not just selling jewelry, but you're making jewelry, and obviously that's why we're here today. Last year you made a piece for us that was our first initial piece, a commemorative piece. We did 2 pieces actually last year, which was the oyster in the half shell, or the pearl in the half shell.
Right.
And then we had the piece that was the logo for North Carolina Oyster Festival. This year, we've stepped it up to a different level. You want to tell us a little bit about what you've brought on as a follow-on piece to last year?
Well, last year the question that we kept getting was, do you have earrings? So this year we added earrings to the line. Again, like we did last year, we're doing all numbered and signed pieces, so there will be a limited edition of each. This year for the oyster shell, there was so much detail on the back of, we use an actual oyster shell. I go digging on the beach, and everywhere I go I'm always looking at the ground. So if somebody sees me out on the beach, I'm not crazy. I've got something in mind. So there was so much detail on the back of the shell last year. I wanted to add a second shell to the top of this one so that you could get the detail on both sides. And like last year, we've added the pearl to both pieces. And so I think it turned out to be
It
a
does.
nice,
It looks very
piece.
nice. So this looks like a shell. It's basically half open, or a piece of the shell on top with the oyster in it. It's very beautiful, and as you can see, the detail from the back of the shell from last year is on the shell that overlays the top of this one. And then we have the earrings here, which are, I guess you call those danglers? What do you?
Right, they're dangle earrings. We've put them on shepherd hooks, and we can do them any way. That if somebody has a special request or doesn't particularly like an earring to dangle, we can change it to accommodate what somebody wants.
All right. And these will be available, as well as we have a few maybe limited number of the ones from last year left over. the
Correct.
numbered
Last
pieces
year,
of the pearl?
we thought pretty high, and so we made the number a little bit higher last year, and so we do have some left from last year that we'll be selling, both the oyster shell as well as the logo pendant. We're fortunate where we're at that most of what we do is in the service side of jewelry. So we do lots of jewelry repair, appraisals, custom stuff, and things like that. As a matter of fact, when we started doing this, it kind of opened our thoughts up to, I realized as I was out looking up and down the beach for oyster shells, that I wasn't alone. There's a lot of people down on vacation that pick up shells and take them home. So going into next year, and we're able to do it now, we're going to start promoting and marketing that we can take shells that people find and transform them into a piece of jewelry for
Well,
them
that's
as well.
awesome. That's awesome. Great service to offer.
Thank you, Michael, for being here and being a part of our show. We look forward to seeing you at the festival.
Thank you as well. Look forward to being here.
Well, we're back, Megan. It's been a great show today, hasn't it?
It has. Great guests and lots of information that we
Right.
found out.
So we got to see some shucking, some shagging, the new print for this year's Oyster Festival, and the new jewelry commemorative pieces. And it was really a good show, and we look forward to having everybody out there this year, October 18th and 19th. If they have any more questions, they can reach us how?
They can call the office, the Brunswick County Chamber, at 910-754-6644, or go on our website, brunswickcountychamber.org.
And also, don't forget, ncoysterfestival.com is one of our websites too, and we will be updating it also through the year.
Yes. Thanks
Through
so
the month.
much.
Thanks.
Chamber Highlight Set is provided by Summer Home Furniture, located on Express Drive in Shiloh. Stop by today to outfit your home in style.